Welcome back to the Strength and Speed Podcast. I'm your host, Conquer the Gauntlet Pro Evan Preparis. I don't have Brenna on the line with me, but I do have another guest. Before we get to that, though, I want to give a shout-out to our sponsor for this episode. This episode is brought to you by FitAid. So FitAid's a ready-to-drink recovery drink. If you were doing Spartan races the last couple of years, you're probably familiar with them. It has a lot of good recovery products in there, including glutamine, and then a bunch of anabolic amino acids, so L-leucine, L-isoleucine, L-valine. So lots of good branched chain amino acids in there, and it tastes great. So check out FitAid if you want a good ready-to-drink recovery product. And they also are a sponsor of Endure the Gauntlet. So if you're thinking of looking to come out to a Conquer the Gauntlet race, Conquer the Gauntlet Tulsa is a very good option because there are essentially 3 events going on in one weekend. One is the normal Conquer the Gauntlet race on Saturday in Tulsa, August 25th. The second is the team event, which is August 26th, which has a cash prize for the elite category and is just a fun event for the open category. And then finally, my 48-hour endurance run, Endure the Gauntlet, is going on all weekend, so starting Friday afternoon and then going through Sunday. All right, let's get to our guest. Today on the podcast, we have Justin Lund, a former semi-pro mountain biker, masters track champion, strength and speed athlete, and he recently raced in the Red Bull 400, which we're going to talk about. So, Justin, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Evan. Thanks for having me on.
And I'm going to give you a quick rundown of his bio so people know who he is. So, he's a lifetime athlete with high school PRs in the 1 mile of 4:54, and his high school PR in the 5K was 17:43. And here's the impressive part, though. He's beaten his PR every year since 2014, and he's now 37 with PRs of 4:43 and 16:58. So we're going to get to that, but he still managed to improving even though he's in his late 30s. He's assistant coach for a school that he went to high school at as a student. In 2005, he got into mountain biking, got some age group podiums in there, and was reaching the overall podium by the end of his first year. 2006, got into ultra mountain biking, and did that for about 5 years, doing races ranging from 3 hours all the way up to 24 hours in length. Had several wins in 12-hour solos, and even finished top 5 in some 24-hour ones. Also a USATF Midwest Masters track athlete in the 800 and 3K, and was ranked top 20 in the world in his age group. And then after that, he's been involved in OCR since 2016 as part of Strength and Speed and Wisconsin OCR. Usually finishes pretty well in terrain race, top 5, and his Red Bull 400 race, he finished the 13th. It was one of the oldest competitors to make the finals. So there's a quick rundown of some of your highlights. So again, Justin, welcome.
Yeah, thanks, man.
All right, so let's start off with the kind of where I started off with your bio. So how do you manage to PR mile and 5K every year since 2014, even though you're typically as you get older, hitting those top speeds and all those fast twitch muscle fibers tend to go away, and it becomes harder to get those fast times. So how did you manage to do that?
Well, it's kind of funny because I've always had like these mileage records in high school. Like I'm the first one to ever do 500 miles in a season and stuff like that. So I think I just kind of wore myself out, so I never really saw my full potential in high school. So, I kept consistent at it. I think I only had like a few-year hiatus between that and mountain bike racing and stuff like that. But, when I got into coaching again, it seemed like the time just started melting off like crazy. And it seemed like, I think I started coaching like in 2011 or 2012. But that kind of got me into the right, state of mind. It's only been, maybe 6 years. So I'm still improving. Hopefully to continue that when I go into my 40s. That's, one of my big goals here is to, keep breaking 5 miles until I, can't possibly do it anymore. Hopefully well into my 50s. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. So since you're a coach, do you actually do the workouts with your athletes?
Yeah, I always do the workouts with my athletes. That's the best part about coaching is showing them that, hey, I'm the old guy, but I'm rubbing your face in the dirt just as easily as any of the other kids on the team. And, it kind of puts a little challenge to them, like, hey, I can't let this old guy beat me.
Yeah, that's great. And then you have like super fast training partners, right? Because like no one's faster than these high school kids have like no body fat and are super light. So, it's a lot easier to propel that over 400 meters, 800 meters than, typically by the time people get in their 30s, they've put on a couple of pounds, whether it be muscle or fat. So.
Yeah, if we're blasting off 200-meter repeats, that's when I tend to get in a little bit of trouble with the kids. But, anything over that, and they better watch out.
Gotcha. So you're 37 now. What did you have to change as you got older to continue to PR? Or did you change anything?
The biggest thing was I had to really focus on a couple things. My diet, first and foremost. This going out and getting wings every Monday night, just doesn't do the same thing it would, 10 years ago. You can just push it out of your mind and get up the next morning and go do a workout and not feel the effects from it. But so now I'm like paying a little bit more attention to my diet. I'm doing a lot more stretching, a lot more foam rolling, a lot more work on agility, flexibility, hurdle drills, things like that to really keep me loose, especially in the hip flexors. And that seems to be helping a lot. I think that's what's kind of keeping me competitive is keeping the injuries at bay and, changing your diet up too.
Gotcha. I forgot what I was going to ask. Give me a second.
It's the food coma, man. I know you just got out of dinner. Would you go, like a Cheesecake Factory or something, or what?
Actually, I went to Texas Roadhouse. I got salmon. I got salmon, vegetables, and a sweet potato. Was my dinner.
Oh, attaboy. See, that's the way to go. We had spaghetti here, so.
Nice. I was gonna say. All right, so now I'm hesitant to ask this question because, diet opinions are just like assholes. Everyone has one, and they all stink. But I'm going to ask anyway. So what's your go-to diet or what's your dieting method or nutrition method?
I got to stay on top of the carbs. I need the carbs. The carbs help me function, basically. Without carbs, I'm not doing much of anything. So I'm trying to keep a good balance there, trying to keep a good balance of protein, dietary fat, stick to my recovery drinks, stuff like that. A huge shout-out to Carbo Rocket for that. They got me hooked up with all sorts of different products that, they really help me after those tough workouts, especially at my age. I need all the rebound I can get.
Gotcha. So let's talk a little bit about training. So when you're training for something like an 800-meter race, what does your weekly schedule look like?
It's funny, that 800-meter race kind of happened on accident. I mean, I was just kind of looking for a workout to do, and it was down by my uncle down in Milwaukee at this college called Carthage College. And it just happened that there was a Midwest Masters track meet there. I signed up, went down the next day, and hopped in, and just right in the middle of my training. I was training for more of like a mile or 5K at that point. But I guess the meat and potatoes of it was mostly like just off-season fartlek runs. I just do a ton of those from like November to mid-February. I'm just constantly doing fartleks instead of hard-on intervals. So I think that's what kind of, helped me get through something like that. And my time wasn't great, but, I mean, it was enough to get me the win. So I guess that works out in my favor. And if you don't show up, you can't beat me.
That is true. And you signed up last minute, so there was probably some guy that had his heart set on that race, and you just came out of nowhere, and you had no idea who you were, and you crushed his soul.
Yeah, nobody had a clue. Nobody had a clue who I was. Half the people that would listen to this podcast probably don't even know who I am, but that's okay.
Yeah. Well, I like bringing on new. This is one of the points that I like about our podcast is I try not to bring on the same guests that every other OCR focused podcast has, and I think you have a lot of great experience specifically in short distance running, and then also in ultra distance mountain biking. I think which adds a new flavor, a new topic of discussion to the training perspective of this podcast. So. All right, so let's go with let's say not 800 meters. Let's go with another short track type event. So I don't know, 400, 1200. Give me something. What would a weekly schedule look like for someone who's preparing for something that's ultra short like that?
Okay, let me do the mile because the mile was something I was really working on this spring. every year I like to enter a college indoor, like a D3 college indoor here in Wisconsin and at UW Stevens Point. They let you enter undetached. And so the focus of my training for something like that was a lot of like fast, hard intervals with short restoration in between. I got some great help from guys like Dennis Welch and Yancey Culp, giving me really good pointers on these every minute on the minute sprints. I mean, they were just absolutely phenomenal. Going back to last year, how this all started was I scheduled for a super. I think it was in Chicago, the Spartan Super, and we had a work shutdown, so my vacation got canceled on me. But then there was the Green Bay Lambeau sprint, the stadium sprint. And so I'm like, well, I got to change gears. What can I do? And he gave me these workouts. They're just you run 200 meters, basically as hard as you can, and your rest is the duration of the minute. So you run a 40, you only got 20 seconds rest before you're going on another one, and you just keep doing that until you fail. So that was, the hard workout of the week. So like I would do that I do that on a Tuesday. Mondays would be like my day off. A Wednesday would be like a recovery run, or depending on how I feel, maybe get on the mountain bike and shred some trails for a while. And then Thursday I would come back with some longer intervals, like maybe, anywhere from 800 to 1200. And then Friday would be like another recovery day. Saturday, I don't know. Saturday depends on the week. I'm either on a longer recovery run, like 45 minutes to an hour. And then Sunday's my long run, like 90 minutes plus.
Okay.
So that's kind of like the basic makeup of it. It changes, for each cycle, of course, but like that was kind of like a typical week.
So basically, one short interval session a week, one longer interval session a week, and then one long aerobic run, and then recovery runs in between, and rest.
Yeah, and some low impact mountain bike or cyclocross bike on the gravel trails or something.
Gotcha.
Something to keep the impact down a little bit too. The pool, if I can get into the pool, do some aqua jogging.
Gotcha. And for weekly mileage for something like the 1 mile, what would you be peaking at or averaging?
I think at the height of it, I'm probably getting up to like maybe just a hair under 50.
Okay, so that's still pretty for some people. That might be a lot, right? So that's still good volume, even for something as short as a 1 mile race.
Oh yeah, I mean, especially for up here in Wisconsin, that's crazy volume. Especially when you're doing like this in like January. You mostly like in December, January, a little bit of February. That's usually when the college indoor stuff starts up here.
And then how does that change as you switch gears from something like something like longer to like a 3K or a 5K distance?
Yeah, and that's typically what happens too. I get done with my mile races and I jump right into the longer stuff. So let's see, like I'd go from that to like a race in March. I have my two maybe 3 races in February, and then head into March, and then that would probably be like a 8K, I mile, whatever. And I would always take it after that, mile cycle. I'd probably take like a solid week or so on lower mileage just to kind of recoup. Get some better lifting in there, some quality, squats, deadlifts, that kind of thing. Just kind of wake myself up again, and then hit the training hard until I get to that 8K. And that's probably like usually my first A race of the year is like in March.
Gotcha. Now a lot of your races seem to be on the short side, super fast. And then you somehow got involved into ultra-distance mountain biking. So how did that transition occur, going from track to ultra mountain biking?
I have no idea how that happened. I was having some real nasty tendonitis issues. I guess that's kind of how it all started. It kind of took me out for a few years. I didn't run, I didn't bike, I didn't do anything except for drink beer and eat tacos, I think, for like a solid 2 or 3 years. I just kind of started Google searching some ways to get back into shape without, the impact and things like that. And found that the Wisconsin Mountain Bike Series is actually one of the biggest state series in the country. So that kind of piqued my interest, got a mountain bike, did some training, probably not the best training in the world. And I entered my first race in 2005 and got my ass pretty much handed to me on a platter. It was pretty ugly. And then the next week I finished podium in my age group. Now, granted, that was beginner class, but it didn't take me very long to move up into the sport and then the competitive class and then eventually elite.
Gotcha. Now, is mountain biking like OCR where you can kind of sign up, anyone can sign up for any kind of wave, or do you need to qualify and then move up?
You do need to upgrade. That wasn't, you had to show certain results in certain events, and then they would, either approve it or deny you. At the time, it was semi-pro, and if you showed enough decent results in sport and competitive was like the upper level of sport. Sport was actually divided into two classes in our series just because of the amount of people there were. So if you entered that competitive class and you did well on there, you're pretty much guaranteed a semi-pro slot, which is now, I believe, like Cat 1, I think they call it. And then eventually you'd end up pro.
Gotcha. And now, is there another hot topic in OCR, right? Is there a governing body that's you're applying to, or is it for per individual race? So, like, if I want to do race X, I need to send in my results from whatever I've done in the past, and they decide if I'm, pro level or whatever.
That is an excellent question. Here's how it shakes out. So, you got USA Cycling. I'm kind of biting my tongue on what my real opinion is about USA Cycling, but I
don't think we have many cyclists listening to this podcast, so you can tear into them. I mean,
okay, fine. I typically refer to USA Cycling as "you suck," but I mean, who's splitting hairs here?
Yeah.
But really, I mean, they cater a lot to just making money for themselves and their executives, and it's like you rarely see any of it given back to the grassroots part of the sport, and that's kind of what's the shame of it all is. You don't see a lot of things being done with the youth with USA Cycling. It's mostly done with local programs, and it's kind of a shame of what these local programs have to do to get bikes for the kids and things like that, and develop their own high school leagues and things of that nature. When USA Cycling could be doing a heck of a lot more to support them, they just choose not to.
Mm-hmm.
But going back to what we were talking about with this structure, the one thing that they do a really good job with is allowing you to get like a one-day license all the way up until you register for a Category 1 or pro race. Now, you can't just register day of with a one-day membership for a pro. They won't let you do that. In fact, I don't even think they do for Cat 1 anymore either. But for sport and beginner class, you can show up day of, pay $10 fee, and you can race all you want. Now, you do your races, anything that's USA Cycling sanctioned. You do your races. Your results are automatically attached to your number. And if you get X amount of podiums with X amount of people in the category, I mean, if you take first out of second, I don't think they're going to really go, oh, wow, this guy killed it. No. But they do kind of keep track of, where you raced, who you raced, and how many of them were, in attendance. And, if you post enough results. And I can't remember what that number is, if it was like you needed 4 top 5s or something like that to get your upgrade. I don't know if that's the case, but it was something like that. Then you get to move up to the next class. Some of them, they actually force you to move up. They're not real fond of sandbaggers. That's the part I thought was really cool about USA Cycling's take on that. So if you're doing beginner class and you're just mopping the fourth, and you're like, okay, dude, all right, you got to move up now. This is just ridiculous. But as far as the pro card goes, yeah, you really got to earn your stripes to get that card for sure. You just don't walk up and get one of those.
Gotcha. Yeah, so I think it brings up an interesting point. So there is a USA Cycling is the governing body, correct, for all?
They are. Yep, they are the governing body.
Okay, so I think just again comparing it to OCR, if we want something similar where we're having classes and people are moving up, you're going to have to give away some control, and there's going to have to be some sort of governing body to help kind of organize and orchestrate that. So, and like you said, it's not all sunshines and rainbows. Like you were complaining about some of the things USA Cycling has done as far as supporting local programs. So,
yeah,
just
and
something.
Selection of their Olympic team.
Yeah, just something to.
Yeah.
it's just something to consider as people kind of, look to push the sport OCR forward, and, the positives and negatives of having a governing body, and, how that might change things. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm totally on board with that. If OCR really wanted to do that, they need one governing body, not like the 25 of them or whatever there are out there right now. I mean, there's a lot of groups out there that are like USA OCR and US OCR. I'm like, okay, which one's the real deal? We just need one sanctioning body, in my opinion, and they need to be ones calling all the shots. And
yep.
That's
I agree in theory. I think it plays out less well in reality. You have multiple people vying for that position, and then you have a bunch of companies that are independent and don't want to be governed. Because those companies that's their livelihood, that's their profit, right? So they don't really want to be told what to do by some sort of governing body, unless there's some sort of positive feedback. And that's one of the things I think that Adrian Bianata has done well with OCR World Championships, right? He's created this positive feedback loop where if your race is a qualifier, it gets you into his race for the OCR World Championships, and at the same time that promotes people showing up to your event. So it kind of creates a positive feedback loop where more people are showing up to their events so they can go to the championships, and vice versa. So.
Yeah, that dude's got it right. He's doing the right thing, I think. And if you get it like a board of directors where all the major players can have a role on the rules and that kind of thing, that could work well for all the athletes involved, and especially weed out some of the stuff you're seeing in the elite waves at your bigger races too. So I think it's nothing but positive if they can come to a solution where, the guys at Spartan, the guys at Tough Mudder, the guys at Terrain Race, the guys at CTG, they can all get together and at least come to some sort of agreement and, make this thing happen. Because that's what it's going to take to really make it an Olympic sport, I think.
Yeah, well, then there's also the aspect of do people want to make it Olympic sport? I think there's...
Oh, yeah.
That, we can go down that whole rabbit hole, too. But we'll pass. Oh, let's get back on track with the podcast. All right.
Yeah, I'm cool. Let's do
it. Kind of the highlight of that is it's easier said than done, and when you actually start looking at people's perspectives and what they're going to gain and lose from the situation, it doesn't always play out so neatly. And not everyone's in OCR just because for the love of sport. At the end of the day, just like anything else, it is a business for a lot of people. All right. Ultra mountain biking, back to that. So give me a fueling strategy for something like a 12 or 24-hour mountain bike race.
Oh, man, did I manage to screw that one up. All right, so when I first got into this, I had no idea what I was doing. I think I was like maybe 23, 24 at the time, and not a clue. So I lined up for my first race, and keep in mind that this was my first 24 solo race, and, the best of the best were there in the country. It was the national championships. I am literally armed with a crate of like Pop-Tarts and some Ensure and
nice.
Some horribly nasty just drink. Like I think it was like Gatorade Endurance Formula. I don't even know if that's still around. But I had like a humongous jug of that I thought was going to be my saving grace, and I ended up with the worst heartburn on the planet by about 2:00 in the morning. It ended up sitting on my butt for about 3 hours. But it didn't stop me from turning out laps. I got up and finished the race. It was no problem. I think I did like 20 or 13 laps in 24 hours and probably like 200 some miles, which is okay. Good enough to get me top 20 in the country. But the strategy was kind of like, you eat your lunch on the bike, you eat your dinner on the bike. The trick was just to stay out of the pits as much as possible. The second you sit down, you're going to want to keep sitting down. So it was just fuel and pedal at the same time as much as you can.
Not much different than Ultra OCR. The longer you're in the pit, that's longer you're going to have to make up moving forward. Now, did you eat a lot of... Once you got your fueling strategy a little more dialed in, did you end up going with a lot of solid foods? Or did you stick with the liquid diet mostly?
I stayed with a liquid diet. I found a drink that gave me pretty much the calories, electrolytes, the protein, everything I needed when I needed it, but I would eat my meals like I would as if it were a normal day. You know what I mean? You know what I mean there?
Example, what would you eat, for example?
The biggest thing that seemed to work for me, because during these races I just have a hard time. Like to take one bite of the sandwich would take me like 3 minutes just to chew it and get on to the next bite. I don't know what it is, but that's just the way it worked for me. So PB&J, that seemed to do the trick. Maybe some banana slices on it or strawberries or something like that, just to kind of mix it up and, nice little surprise to look forward to as you're going. That seemed to be the only thing that would actually be tolerable. But I would also, like, after maybe 4 or 5 hours, I'd pound like a bottle of like Boost or something like that.
Okay, so not that much different than my fueling strategy. So I go for Ultra OCR. I go mostly liquid diet, Perpetuum, High Nutrition's Perpetuum, carb, fat, protein blend, and then I actually go with that sometimes 12 to 20 hours before I switch to any solid food. And then for solid foods, I usually do peanut butter and jelly sandwich or like a turkey sandwich. Usually like a small piece of, it's like a half sandwich. It's not a full sandwich that I shove in my mouth at the end of the lap. So
I'd put it in Dixie cups, like break up the sandwich, put it in Dixie cups, and throw it in the back pocket of my bike jersey. So as I get on the course, I get comfortable, just take it out of my pocket and basically drink my sandwich. And it would just, I don't know, it just worked perfect.
Yeah, so you can't so much do that with the Ultra OCR due to the mud and the wetness. So I go with the Ziploc bags, and my wife has the pit crew strategy. She developed, so she cuts the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches one way, like diagonally, and then she cuts the turkey ones like across, so they're like a rectangle instead of a triangle. So even in the dark, she can just reach in and feel around and grab the appropriate sandwich.
The best investment I made for this whole thing was, those shoe carriers that you put on the back of a door?
Yep.
Throw one of those in your pit and number each one, and that's what you take each lap.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, well, I bag things in Ziploc bags, numbered by lap, and then when my dad's picker, he wears like a fishing vest with like every pocket has something different in it, so I know where to grab if I need something. But good stuff. All right. Now, with ultra mountain biking, the first thing that comes to mind is how badly your ass must hurt. Like, that's all I can think about. If I spend like a long day on a bike, all I can think about is how painful it is to sit on it for longer. So how do you deal with that? Or is it just something that it just hardens over time, and then you just, kind of deal with it?
There is no getting used to it. There's no getting over it in time. It hurts. It's painful. It sucks. You can put on as much chamois butter. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but anyway, it's
of course, yep.
You can put as much of that on as you want. It's gonna wear off, and you're gonna have to reapply. And that is the part where it makes it 10 times worse, is having to reapply it. There's been numerous times that you go to reapply, and like the pain from it is like borderline nauseous. I mean, it's just terrible.
Gotcha. All right,
you push through.
You just deal with it, just like anything else. Gotcha.
Yeah, they make a lead for that kind of stuff. I mean, it kind of takes down the inflammation stuff a little bit. Not perfect, but I mean, it can help. Just don't overdo it and get stomach issues and keep playing with that stuff. But
yeah. All right. Let's hear about your opinion on cycling or mountain biking as cross training for OCR.
Oh, that's a good one. I think it is a great way to cross train for OCR. Especially if you're doing races where you're messing around with, bushwhacking trails or running on single track, because I think it really helps you pick out your line. If you got rocks, you got roots, you got things like that, you're going to be eyeing up where you're going to be putting your feet. It's no different than mountain biking. You want to put your tire where you want to go. You don't want to look where you don't want to go, because that's where you're going to end up, and you end up doing what I do sometimes and putting the bike in the water. I think that part of it is real crucial. I mean, it really helps with your coordination, especially in the nasty off-camber type stuff where You got to pick your line. You bounce from like the side of a berm into the middle of the trail and just keep going. I mean, it's definitely useful. And depending on the bike that you ride, I mean, it could be a really good grind for your quads and stuff too. Or if you use like clipless pedals, you know, that push and pull. Yeah, it'll definitely work you without the impact. You just got to find the right balance. And my bikes are a little different. I don't ride a standard geared mountain bike. I mean, all the bikes I've owned are single speeds and no suspension at all.
That sounds rough.
And it is.
All right, so definitely some good information there, some good takeaways for the OCR athletes on the podcast listening. Now let's talk about kind of the big reason we wanted to get you on the podcast was the Red Bull 400. So explain the race format, and we'll go from there.
Okay. First of all, let me start off by saying that was probably the coolest race I've done in a long time. You would think 400 meters up a ski jump is, 5-10 minutes you're done, right? No, that's not necessarily the case. What these guys did is they capped off the registration at 500 people. They threw you into groups of 25. So the day before, you got your heat sheet. I found your name. There's your wave. That's the time you should be there by maybe like an hour beforehand to get your registration. Blah blah blah. Move on. Jump in your race and make the ascent to the top. So there's that beginning part of it. So you're standing the Red Bull 400. You're basically taking off from the bottom of a ski jump bowl, and you head straight up the ski jump. And Copper Peak up in the UP in Michigan, that is actually the steepest one in the entire series. I think it averaged like 38% incline. And on this course, it was actually a grass landing area, so it wasn't like artificial turf, like what a lot of these ski jumps have, like Park City or Whistler. They had a cargo net that you would actually use to pull yourself up because it was just so loose and rocky and just gnarly. So that's like the first 300 or first 200 meters or so. And then they transitioned you onto the ski jump itself. Now that is probably where the average pitch probably made up its ground, because the first part of it was probably maybe like 25% or so. But the ski jump itself was much, much steeper. The kind of steep where you could bear crawl effectively and make it up.
So let's go over what were your expectations going into the race versus how it actually played out.
My expectation was to sprint up that hill like a champion. Reality, you're crawling up the hill like a slug, and you're getting oxygen when you get to the top. It was insane. Like they had a cutoff. If you didn't make it to the halfway point in 10 minutes, okay, this is a 400-meter race. If you didn't make it to the 200-meter mark in 10 minutes, you're going back down the hill. You're turning around, you're going back down.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, that's 10 minutes up 200 meters. Now, granted, we weren't doing that. We were going much, much quicker. But I mean, it was like just under 450. And this was a guy from the U.S. ski team, just phenomenal athlete, And I didn't come in at 450. I came in more like 650. And qualified 16th for the final.
Nice. Definitely a cool race. Definitely, if you're listening to this, you've never seen pictures of what the Red Bull 400 looks like, Google it. I'll try to include some with the podcast cover for this episode. It's a very unique event. If assuming someone's listening and wants to get ready to do this event someplace else, what advice do you have for others getting ready?
I think the biggest thing is to just walk an incline as steep as you possibly can. Just walk it. Do it 2-3 times a week. If that's your main race, that's your main goal. That's what you're looking forward to the most that year. For me, I kind of trained through it, and I did run some hills and things like that just to kind of prepare. But it wasn't like, I don't know. It wasn't like I was really gunning for it. But I think next year I might have a change of heart there and probably really go after it. Anytime you can walk stairs. I mean, that's the kind of incline you're going to experience. And if you can skip stairs, do that too, because you're going to be power walking quite a bit, and by skipping stairs, you're kind of mimicking that motion. It's a very tough race. There were lots of people getting oxygen at the top of the jump. And, I mean, it'll turn you inside out, that's for sure. Don't take it lightly. Don't think it's 400 meters quick to the top. It's not.
Yeah, I mean, if it's taking you several minutes to get to the top, I mean, you can just take that as an example for how hard it is. And especially you look at some of your previous race times for shorter distance races, you know, like you've got a strong, fast twitch muscle and anaerobic system there, and if it's still taking you 6 minutes to get up to the top, that's a pretty serious incline. And for those of you who, you know, train on a treadmill at home, you know, most treadmills typically don't go past like 15%. So if you're doing Red Bull 400 and it's doing 25 to 38% grade, you know, run 15% grade for a while on your treadmill and let me know how fast you're moving.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to do it.
All right, and then so you ended up doing a qualifying and then a finals. Did you go all out for both? What was or did you try to hold back?
See, you know, the original email and the whole description of how that race went, they said they're going to take the top two out of each wave. So I was kind of concerned, like, oh, okay, what if I end up in like a fully loaded wave and I get 10th, and it's probably would have been good for 10th place overall. They changed it day of, and they took the top, I think, 25 times. So, yeah, you had to go all out in both rounds because you didn't know if you were going to get beat on time from a late wave.
Gotcha. Yeah, with that many waves, you really can't risk it.
Yeah, my recovery time was okay enough. I raced at 2 o'clock. I had come back again at 4:30. So, yeah, by the time it was all said and done, I probably got like an hour and 45 minutes of actual recovery before I had to start warming up again.
And what was your recovery strategy between the two races?
Get fluids in as quick as you can, stretch out, roll out, jog downhill for a little while to kind of loosen things up, get that range of motion back, and then just elevate, get your legs up on the fence, and just sit there and stare at the clouds for a while.
And then one more. What was your two times between what was your qualifying and then final time?
Qualifying time was 6:55. That was good enough for 16th. And my final time, I think, was 7:10.
Okay, so a tiny bit slower. But
yeah, a tiny bit slower. I mean, there's a few things I could have done differently. On the cargo net got a little bit jammed. I could have went to the far right side and made a move, but I don't know. I just kind of got sucked into the experience and just, you know, cruised up until I got to the jump, and that's kind of when I started catching people.
Okay, for our metal whores / swag aficionados, they give you any T-shirt or medal or anything like that?
They gave me a pretty sweet T-shirt, but I was surprised. Like all the other races that they showed, you know, like in the YouTube videos and stuff like that, they were showing medals, but we didn't have one.
Did they give medals for overall or no?
Yeah, they got medals overall. Well, I should say they got nice trophies overall, and the winner got, let's see, I think it was $1,000.
Okay.
Third got $250.
Not bad for 5 minutes of work, although it's fairly awful work, but yeah.
And I'm sure you can imagine as much Red Bull as you wanted, you know.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure people are crushing Red Bull and then being like, I'm just gonna go knock out this 400-meter sprint with my heart rate doing like 220 the whole time.
Yeah, that was crazy. I can't believe how many people I saw like dump a can in the garbage and then head to the start line. I'm like, what are you doing? You're gonna die. Yeah, what I was really surprised with is that when we got to the start line, there were supposed to be 25 people there, and I think maybe 20 showed up. So there was a lot of people that qualified for this final, and they're like, nope, once it was good enough for me, I'm done, I'm out of there, peace out.
That's pretty funny. All right, so any other final thoughts on the Red Bull 400?
Oh, I definitely recommend it. It's a unique challenge. I mean, if you're into doing things that are different outside of just, you know, running your 5Ks, running your OCRs, doing your bike races, things like that, put this one on your calendar. You won't regret it. It's a great venue, awesome event, really cool challenge. I really the box.
Nice. Couple final questions, and then we'll call it a day for the podcast. So as a high-level athlete kind of crossing over into OCR, what challenges did you face?
The biggest thing, grip strength, man. Grip. I'm still working grip. I continue to work grip. I probably always will grip, even if I don't race OCR anymore, because I know I don't want to go back to that place where I was, where like, yeah, even deadlifts will test your grip. I mean, that was kind of where I was. And now I'm very much more confident in my ability with the grip. Being lighter, I think the heaviest I get during seasons, maybe like 155. So like things like the bucket carry, things like, I won't even say the double sandbag. I'm actually pretty solid at that. But the bucket carry, that one just kills me. Still working on it. That's something that I think, crossing over, work on your low back strength, work on your grip. That'll probably get you, that'll make up a lot of places for you where your running can't.
All right, sounds good. And then what, for your personal future plans, anything big planned for this year or maybe next year?
Yeah, this year you'll see me at the Minnesota Sprint, of course. That's new race of the Mountain Series. I plan on doing that. Do we even call it the NBC race anymore? Is it even on TV?
No, it's not on NBC. I think it's just called the U.S. Series. I think the U.S. Series is the appropriate title. Someone's probably yelling at their phone right now that I'm off, but it's not on NBC. It's U.S. Point Series, I believe. That's what I'm going to go with.
Well, that works. Anyway, I'm going to be at the Chicago one for that. Enter the Elite Wave. And we'll see how that goes. Spartan racing, I've always had something go on. Ever since I entered the Elite Wave, it's just not been my luck lately. First time I entered the Elite race was at the Minnesota Sprint a couple of years ago. It dislocated my shoulder twice and managed only to get 44th out of it.
Wow. Any plans to go to NORAM? Maybe throw down at the 3K? It seems like that would be right up your alley.
As much as I like to think that my fast twitch is still there, I think a 3K I'd just get buried. Honestly, I think I'm pretty good from 10K up. That seems to be my money distance. And I think we'll find that out when the Super comes around. I think me and Jordan will be running that together. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. Referencing Jordan Buscemi, who we've had on this podcast before, Wisconsin OCR athlete. Very good. Dominates most of the races in the Midwest. So.
Yep, and part of Wisconsin OCR.
That's right. Before we go, any final shout-outs you want to give? Family, friends, sponsors, or whatever?
Yeah, definitely, man. There's a lot. I wouldn't say a lot of people I'd like to thank. There's tons of people I'd like to thank. But definitely, thanks to Jordan Buscemi, of course. He's been a very great inspiration and motivator and keeping me moving along. And then, of course, there's my fellow coach, John Zulsdorf. He's the guy that got me into this whole fitness lifestyle. He taught me very early on when I was running for him that this isn't just, a 4-year high school sport. This can be part of your life if you choose to be. So, I definitely thank him. And, a big shout out to Carbo Rocket. They're supporting Wisconsin OCR and, giving us a lot of goodies to keep us hydrated and fueled and ready to go on race day. And definitely like to thank, big shout out to you, Evan, Team Strength and Speed. I mean, that's an awesome platform for people to share their training, their ideas, their thoughts on the OCR scene and things like that. Always a great conversation with you and the rest of the group. And then, of course, the Dennis Welch Endurance Project. This guy's got a great training program. I definitely encourage you guys to check him out. I mean, for $20 a month, you can't beat it. He has some awesome programming, and he's definitely kicked my butt this week. I'll tell you that right now. That's pretty much it.
Nice. Well, thank you for the kind words, and I agree. I'm going to give a quick shout-out to the rest of the Strength and Speed people. By the time this comes out, this will be a couple weeks old, but we recently had Kat Radcliffe, who was on the OCR World Championship team, qualify for American Ninja Warrior Finals in Dallas. So that was just aired last night as of this recording, which is awesome.
Yeah, she killed it, man.
Yeah, I was super excited. I didn't know if she was going to make the finals because I think she fell a little bit early for what she would consider.
Yeah, did you see her time, though? I think the time is what kept her in her. She flew through that course.
Yeah. So if you look at some of her videos she posts on Instagram, like she's got some crazy grip strength, absolutely phenomenal. But definitely shout out to Kat. Great job for making the finals. Looking forward to watching it. And then Jordan Smith, one of the ultra runners who was interviewed in the back of Mud Run Guide's Ultra OCR Bible. He also ran across the state of Michigan at one point. He did some crazy trek across New Zealand. So we're looking to get him on the podcast at some point. just got married, so congratulations to him. And that's about it. If you're looking for more good information, head over to Strength and Speed. Just updated the website with some new discount codes for some of the sponsors of Endure the Gauntlet and put some new products up in the store. So go ahead and check that out. Justin, thanks again for coming on the show. Definitely some good information. I appreciate you taking the time out. And, we'll catch up with you later.
All right. Thanks for having me on, Evan.